Hey, welcome back. It's good to see you here. Let's talk about the elephant in the room today. Fear. Fear is a serious limitation on human beings. We let fear get in front of us and stop us from doing some of the things we really want to do because we internalize the fear. For instance, someone might be afraid to click the like button right there. Or maybe they've got a great deal of anxiety about subscribing to the channel, or maybe they feel their friends and family might think less of them if they share the video. I assure you, none of that is true. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, it'll all work out. But fear is real. And maybe fear is too serious a word. Maybe it's too powerful a word. Maybe we should tamp it down a little bit and talk about anxiety. Because in the aviation world, especially early on, anxiety is a real thing. You're not alone. It's normal to feel a little bit of anxiety, some nervousness, I don't even have a word for it, when you're thinking about going flying for the first time, or signing up for flight lessons, or going off on a flight with a friend or a family member who flies in one of those little planes. For some reason, people think big airplanes are awesome, but little airplanes are scary. It's like being afraid of a sports car, but liking a school bus. It doesn't make any sense to me. Fear of flying is at least a little bit like that first day at a new school or the first day on a job that you've never worked before. You got hired, you're excited, it's a great paycheck, maybe they got good benefits, and you show up on the first day and you're not entirely with it. You don't know anybody there. You're not familiar with the facilities, the building, where things are. You might not be able to find the break room. You might even have trouble actually doing the job they hired you to do because you're just not familiar and you don't know who to ask and everything is confusing. It would be perfectly normal under those circumstances as you walk through the front door for the first time that you're a little bit anxious. Why wouldn't you be? This is all new to you. Anytime you're doing something new and different that you've never done before, well, it makes sense that that would make you a little nervous, which we will recognize as anxiety. And we might even let it ratchet up to the point where we consider it fearful. But it's not going to harm you. It's just a new experience. And new experiences become the big fabric of our life over time. So go ahead and seek out those new experiences and make the most of them when you can. The last two people I've taken flying on what we call a familiarization flight, where I really put them in the pilot seat. I sit in the passenger seat and let them fly the airplane under supervision so they can really have the experience of flying. But the last two people I've taken up, both were afraid that they wouldn't be able to do it. They were nervous when they got to the airport. They were uncomfortable when they got into the airplane. There was a little bit of tension when we were sitting there ready to take off because they both thought, maybe I'll freak out, maybe I'll get airsick, I don't know, I'm not sure I'm gonna like this because I'm afraid of heights. Well, that's logical. That makes all the sense in the world. If you don't like being up on an extension ladder or you feel uncomfortable at the edge of a balcony on a high building, that would lead you to believe I'm not going to like being in an airplane a half a mile or a mile up in the air. That makes sense. But is it true? Or is it just your imagination? Instead of letting that imagination run away with you, why not try talking to people who have done the thing that's making you nervous? What if you talked to some pilots to say, hey, have you ever met someone who flies professionally or recreationally who's afraid of heights? How did they overcome that? You might be surprised to find out not only do they say, yeah, I do know a pilot who's afraid of heights. They may say, oh, I know several pilots who are afraid of heights. And they might even respond with, I'm afraid of heights because I am. And I've had many years of great enjoyment as a pilot, getting paid or recreationally, even though I am legitimately afraid of heights. I'm going on vacation and my wife loves being up in a high room with a balcony, and my wife and kids will go out there. I don't go anywhere near that balcony. I'm back in the room with a book or watching TV or something. I do own an extension ladder. I've never been to the top of it, and I'm never gonna, because when I get halfway up, I'm really uncomfortable. But for reasons I cannot really explain, I'm not afraid in the airplane. I'm not afraid in the airplane at all. As a matter of fact, I used to own an AirCam experimental twin-engine tail dragger, which is basically a canoe with a parasol wing. From your hips up, you're out of the airplane. Only your legs are inside the fuselage. Never bothered me a bit. I absolutely loved flying that airplane. It was all kinds of fun. Being afraid of heights is not something that should keep you out of the cockpit, although I've met probably hundreds of people over the course of my career who thought they couldn't fly because they are afraid of heights. Specifically, it's really not the problem you think it is. Whether it's fear of heights or fear of air sickness or just basic anxiety, I'm not sure I'm going to like being in enclosed space in an airplane. How do you get past that? Familiarity. That's the key to everything. Just like that first day on the new job, you know in your head, 6 months later, this is going to be absolutely normal. 5 years later, this might be boring. This thing that is anxiety-inducing today would actually become dull because it's actually not fearful. Go to the airport, hang out at the restaurant, make friends with the line service people at the front desk. Maybe you'll make friends with a pilot, and when they're taxiing their airplane from the ramp back to their hangar, they'll let you ride along with them. No stress, we're not going flying, we're not leaving the ground. We're probably not going to go over 15 miles an hour the whole time, but you get used to the sound and the feel and the sights and the smells, and it all starts to become normal, like that job that was so anxiety-inducing that becomes just flat out boring a couple of years later. Of course, flying is rarely described as boring. It is exhilarating, but that's because of the sights we get to see, the experiences we get to have, the places we get to go, and the fact that we aren't held up by red lights or traffic jams or some guy with a flat tire on the side of the road that didn't get entirely out of the lane. We're just free to travel with a remarkable view, and it's fantastic. I have to tell you, some of the most impressive pilots I've known throughout my career started out afraid of heights, or afraid that they'd get airsick, or worried about claustrophobia. And they all got over it because it's actually not that big a hurdle. Once you get started in aviation, once you start feeling what it is to be in and around aircraft and hanging out with pilots and thinking in a way that you never did before, all of a sudden, this is a whole new life. And those concerns, those worries, the things that held you back before, well, you burst right through that, and you go on with a much bigger, more dramatic, more exciting, more satisfying life than maybe you ever imagined possible. Oh, and remember those two people I took up on the familiarization flights who were afraid of heights and maybe that they would get airsick? Both of them are in flight training now. They absolutely loved it. They both found not only was this not the problem they thought it was going to be, it was way better than they ever dreamed it would be. Both of them now intend to become professional pilots. Don't let your fears, your anxieties, your nervousness hold you back. Give it a try. If you've been thinking about getting involved in aviation, in any aspect of aviation, go for it. You might be surprised to find that by the time you finish the training and the orientation and work with people who guide you through the process, you are remarkably comfortable at something you thought you could never do. I wish you the best of luck. Remember, don't be afraid to like and subscribe and share this video because you know somebody who's in this position, don't you? You know somebody who wishes they could fly, who's thought about flying, but they don't do it because they're nervous. Now you can send them this video and say, see, I found this guy. He's telling you exactly what I've been telling you all these years. Just go do it. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you being on the MadProps team. We will be right back here with another video in just a couple days on your personal device. I look forward to seeing you then.